When he retired from playing, he said he loved every minute of his time in the Canadian Football League. And the bulk of that time was spent in Hamilton, where he gained the undying admiration of fans and the love and respect from teammates and opponents alike. Welcome to episode 24 of the Fifth Quarter Show Legends as we look back upon the life and times of another Hamilton Tiger Cats superstar. My name is Rick Zamprin, and I'm happy to see that you've joined me once again. I really do appreciate your support. Today's icon is, without a shadow of a doubt, one of the best players in the history of the franchise, and the impact that he made beyond the field continues to be felt. I kept you waiting long enough. The next legend is Danny McManus. Danny McManus was born June 17th, 1965, and grew up in Dania Beach, Florida. He attended South Broward High School and landed at Florida State University under head coach Bobby Bowden. After he was redshirted in 1983, McManus earned the Seminole starting job in 1985 as the program rose to prominence in the NCAA. But he suffered 2 concussions and missed the bulk of the 85 season. McManus returned to action in 1986, but his biggest impact was felt in 1987, when he guided Florida State to an 11-1 record and a spot in the Fiesta Bowl. Danny Mac threw for 375 yards and 3 touchdowns, including the game-winning score on 4th and goal from the 15-yard line as the Seminoles beat Nebraska 31-28. In the 1988 NFL Draft, McManus was selected by the Kansas City Chiefs in the 11th round, 282nd overall, joining a cornerback room that included journeyman Steve DeBerg and veteran Bill Kenny. But after sitting on the bench for his entire rookie season, McManus was released during training camp the following year. After failing to latch on with another NFL team, McManus ventured north to Winnipeg to join the Blue Bombers in 1990 as Tom Burgess's backup. The Bombers finished first in the East at 12-6 and beat Toronto to advance to the Grey Cup against Edmonton, where they destroyed the Eskimos 50-11. McManus entered the game in relief of Burgess and threw a touchdown to Rick House. McManus remained Burgess's backup in 1991 and was QB number 2 when Matt Dunnigan arrived in the Peg in 92. D-Mac and the Bombers made it to the Grey Cup again, but this time they lost to Doug Flutie and the Calgary Stampeders 24-10. McManus signed as a free agent with BC and was Danny Barrett's backup in 1993 and Kent Austin's backup in 94. In the 1994 West Final, McManus was called upon after Austin got hurt and led the Lions to a dramatic 37-36 come-from-behind win against Calgary on a snowy night at McMahon Stadium. A week later in the 82nd Grey Cup, McManus replaced an injured Austin at halftime, and along with kicker Louis Pasaglia, led the Lions to a 26-23 win over the Baltimore Stallions at BC Place Stadium. McManus took over the Lions' starting job in 1995 and threw for 4,655 yards and 19 touchdowns. Okay, he also had 26 interceptions. BC went 10-6 and lost to Edmonton in the first round of the playoffs. D-Mac joined Edmonton in 1996 and threw for 4,425 yards, 19 TDs, and 27 picks. And along with head coach Ron Lancaster and receiver Darren Flutie, the Esks went from 11-7 and beat Winnipeg and Calgary en route to an appearance in the 84th Grey Cup against Toronto at Ivor Wynne Stadium. McManus threw for 413 yards and 3 scores, but Doug Flutie got the better of his younger brother as the Argos topped Edmonton 43-37 in a snowstorm in Hamilton. Edmonton hosted the Grey Cup in 1997, but after winning the division, the Esks were upset by Saskatchewan in the Western Final. Danny Mac was again a free agent, and this time decided to move east, along with Lancaster and Flutie, to Hamilton. Despite building a tough defense in 1997, the Ticats were a dismal 2-16, but that all changed in 98. The Ticats won the East at 12-5-1 and beat Montreal in the East Final for a spot in the Grey Cup against Calgary. But Jeff Garcia, Alan Pitts, and Alondra Johnson were just too much for Hamilton as the Stamps edged the Ticats 26-24. The following season, the Ticats were on a mission. McManus threw for a career-best 5,334 yards and 28 touchdowns and earned the CFL's Most Outstanding Player award, leading Hamilton to an 11-7 record and playoff wins over Toronto and Montreal. In their Grey Cup rematch against the Stampeders, McManus threw 2 TDs to Flutie and earned MVP honors as the Cats beat Calgary 32-21. McManus threw for more than 4,000 yards for a record 6th consecutive season in 2000. But Hamilton sunk to 9-9 and fell to Winnipeg in the East semifinal. DMAC topped 4,000 passing yards in 2001 and 2002, but the Ticats would only get as far as the East final in 2001. Flutie retired after the 2002 season, and without his favorite target, the 38-year-old McManus failed to hit 3,000 passing yards for the first time as a full-time starter. He threw just 9 touchdowns and 15 interceptions as the bankrupt Ticats suffered through a CFL worst 1-17 season. But with Greg Marshall replacing Lancaster as head coach, McManus passed for 5,034 yards and 29 touchdowns. And he also had 30 interceptions the following season. Ticats improved to 9-8-1, but lost to Toronto in the Eastern Semi. The 2005 Ticats finished last in the East at 5-13, and the 40-year-old McManus struggled before he was eventually benched in favor of Kahari Jones, Marcus Brady, and even Kevin Eakin. McManus was traded for the first time in his career that offseason, shipped to Edmonton in a deal that brought quarterback Jason Moss to Steeltown. The Esks then dealt McManus to Calgary, where he backed up Henry Burris in what would be his final season in the Canadian Football League. When Danny Mac retired, he was only the 3rd player in history at that time to throw for more than 50,000 yards in the CFL. McManus still holds Hamilton's franchise record for passing yards, touchdowns, and completions. Beyond his 3 Grey Cup victories as a player, his MOP and CFL All-Star Award in 1999, and all his Ticats records, McManus was one of the most loved players the team has ever had. He would often be seen at McMaster Children's Hospital in Hamilton cheering up kids who were too sick to watch the team play at Ivor Wynne. And whenever the team lost, McManus was eager to take the fall. And when they won, DMAC would credit his teammates for getting the job done. Danny McManus, inducted into the Florida State University Hall of Fame in 1995, the Canadian Football Hall of Fame in 2011, and the Ticats Wall of Honor in 2022, is a true legend. Thanks again for checking out the Fifth Quarter Show Legends. We have 2 more episodes to go, dropping May 8th and 15th. Who will the last 2 legends be? I can't wait to tell their stories. Until then, Oski Wee Wee.